Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's web presentation on the new Texas Indigent Defense Commission IDER website. My name is Edwin Colfax. I'm the Director of Grant Funding here at TIDC. I'm joined by several of my colleagues at TIDC today, including Dr. Sarah Gamble, our Research Director. Also joining is Deborah Stewart, our Fiscal Analyst. And we'll also be joined a bit later today by some of our colleagues at the Office of Court Administration who will speak to a new section of the report regarding court interpretation services. So we are very excited to present to you what has been a very big project for TIDC. We've been working with the same reporting website for many years, and we are excited to upgrade this technology to streamline the reporting process for you out in the counties, and we hope that you appreciate the new technology that we've been working on. So with that, let's jump in to our presentation. So most of you know us as an organization that is here to protect the right to counsel and improve indigent defense. That's our mission statement. Today, what are our goals? We're going to provide an overview of the Indigent Defense Expenditure Report, or IDER, for those of you who are new to the report or may need a refresher on what the report is all about. We're going to focus today in this presentation on the data reported on the Criminal and Juvenile Delinquency IDER. We will be having separate presentations on the Family Protection, or CPS, case sections of the IDER. In fact, we'll have one of those scheduled tomorrow. And we're also going to be introducing a new report that is part of been built into the IDER for the Office of Court Administration that focuses on court interpretation services. So we'll introduce that to you. But really, the bulk of our time will be demonstrating for you the new TIDC reporting website with a focus on the juvenile and criminal sections, as well as the new interpreter report. All right, so just as a refresher for many of you, or perhaps an introduction for those of you who are new to the report, all county auditors are required to submit the Indigent Defense Expenditure Report each year. It's an annual report of county indigent defense expenditures and cases. The due date is still November 1st. You will be reporting at TIDC's new reporting website, and when we get into the demo, we'll show you how to get there. It is a statutory requirement that this report be filed. And of course, how to report, that's today's topic. So the new IDER website is organized around three distinct modules. The first one is the Criminal and Juvenile Delinquency IDER, which is going to be covered in today's session. There's a separate module for the Family Protection IDER, covering appointments in CPS cases. That separate training that's being prepared for family protection will be tomorrow. I believe it's at 1 p.m. tomorrow. Yes. Yes, tomorrow at 1 p.m. Just want to make sure. And then the new OCA interpreter report, which is also going to be covered in today's session. So what's new this year with the report? Well, of course, the new reporting website. We're going to talk a lot about that. There is going to be a new process for getting your credentials or login for the website. We'll go over how to do that. One of the things that's different this year is that while any user at the county level can populate data into the report, the financial officer, generally the auditor, him or herself, will need to log in to submit the report. So there's some changes in the login and credentialing processes. The report has a Q&A structure where you're asked certain questions, and then based on your responses, you're prompted to populate certain data, and you're walked through the report through step-by-step checklists. And the other thing that's new is there is a lot of contextual guidance in the report, particularly wherever you see a green question mark, which is pretty much at almost every field in the report. You can hover over that and get some quick guidance and instructions on how to complete that part of the report. Also new this year, for those counties that have public defender offices or managed assigned counsel programs, we are including the staffing report that will collect data on PD and MAC staff. Some of you will recall that there is a section in our previous IDER for increased administrative expenditures. That section has actually been removed. It was only used by a handful of counties and was not really necessary data that we needed to collect any longer. So you won't see that section any longer. And then finally, the new OCA Court Interpretation Services report is new. A little bit more about that. It's, again, a statutory requirement for all county financial officers, generally auditors, or where no auditor exists, a treasurer. It was a requirement that was passed by the 88th legislature in SB 380 and House Bill 3474. It is a separate report to the Office of Court Administration, but for streamlining the process of submitting the data, we've collaborated with the Office of Court Administration to build it into the new IDER reporting portal. And it basically captures expenditures on court-ordered interpretation services in criminal and civil proceedings. So we will be joined in our demo a little bit later by some representatives from the Office of Court Administration who can talk more about the Court Interpretation Services report. But also I would direct you to the website there at the bottom of the screen for full details on instructions on that particular part of the reporting that we'll touch on later today. All right, so what data is reported on the criminal and juvenile IDER? Well, there's two categories. There's countywide data and court-specific data. So among the countywide data, you're going to be asked to report payments to or received from participants in regional indigent defense programs. One new thing this year is that we're going to be asking you to itemize particular payments made for regional programs. You're also going to be asked to report reimbursements of indigent defense costs, including any reimbursements of attorney fees collected from defendants. That's consistent with our previous report. Any funds received from the Texas Comptroller reimbursing the county for death penalty writs of habeas corpus. That's a relatively rare scenario, but some counties will have that data to report, also the same as in previous years. And any other non-TIDC indigent defense expenditure funding, other grants from private foundations, perhaps federal funds that offset your indigent defense expenditures, you'll have a place to report those. So all of those things are consistent from our previous report. Other countywide data, if your county has a public defender office or a managed assigned counsel program, you're asked to report the expenditures associated with operating those offices. And for those counties, relatively short list of counties that offer what we refer to as limited scope representation for 1517 hearings, bail advocacy, where attorneys are representing defendants at the first appearance or in automatic bail review hearings, but that representation does not continue on to the underlying case. There is a place to report the expenditures and the representation of that sort. And most of the data that you'll be asked to report is court by court. And the court level data includes amounts expended for each court, organized by counsel type, meaning assigned counsel, public defender, managed assigned counsel, or contract. You're also sorting the data by the type of expenditure, attorney fees, investigation, expert witness, or other litigation expenses. And of course, by case type, non-capital felony, capital cases, misdemeanors, juvenile cases, and appeals. In addition to reporting at the court level, the expenditure data, you're also reporting the number of cases paid and disposed, again, categorized by the type of case and the type of counsel, whether it be public defender, assigned counsel, et cetera. So what data should be included? Well, I want to remind everybody, of course, that it's defense costs only in adult, and then we're focusing, remember, in this section on the adult criminal and juvenile delinquency section of the IDER. So defense costs only, adult criminal cases and felony and misdemeanors of class A and B misdemeanors, juvenile delinquency cases. And for those categories, you're going to include attorney fees, investigator fees, expert costs, and other litigation expenses. There are some things that should not be included in the criminal and juvenile IDER, and those include civil cases and expenses. As I mentioned, there is a separate section of the IDER for family protection or CPS cases that will be the subject of our training tomorrow afternoon. And so any of those types of expenses and appointments should be reported in the family protection section of the IDER, not in the criminal and juvenile section. You should not include Attorney General, any appointments associated with Attorney General child support enforcement cases. You should not include anything related to Class C misdemeanors, including traffic offenses and other non-jailable offenses. Other things that there's sometimes some questions about that I want to highlight. You should not include costs associated with mental health evaluations regarding competency to stand trial, which is considered a general court expense, not defense specific, or other general court expenses such as court reporters, interpreters for court proceedings, etc. Of course, you will be reporting expenditures related to interpretation in the new OCA report that we'll touch on a little bit later. All right, with that, let me turn it over to Dr. Sarah Gamble, who's going to give us an in-depth walkthrough of the new website. Sarah, would you like to take it away?
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Edwin. I am Sarah Gamble, the Research Director at TIDC, and I'm going to help demonstrate the website and kind of go through pages and pass it off to Edwin, who's going to fill in the whys behind what is on the page. First, I do want to thank Public Policy Research Institute at Texas A&M, who's done the programming for this website. We do hope this website makes it easier for you to enter the data. We also hope it's easier for you to access the data and share the data. The website will go live October 1st, as Edwin has mentioned. I'm going to say the simplest way to find the website is to go to our tidc.texas.gov, look for it at the bottom of the page in the latest news. I will link you straight in. And now I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so what you are seeing here is the main TIDC data portal. And you could be directed here to access the various reports for TIDC. The link that we're going to give you is actually going to take you directly into the Indigent Defense Expenditure Report, but I wanted folks to see this in case they backed out. Here you will be able to request a new user. So if you are new to the reporting of this report, you've never done it before, you're not in our system, you need to go ahead and click here and send an email to get the credentials. If you are currently in our system, you will be asked to, and I will demonstrate, log in and forgot password. You will have a password that is distinct for this website. You may maintain your other password for the legacy site. So I'm going to go ahead and click in. Here's the forgot password link if you needed it. And so this is what the IDER dashboard looks like. You'll see a few things. This dashboard link will take you to this. The clicking on the TIDC will take you back to that main page. And here, if you are authorized to enter data, or if you're an auditor that needs to certify the data for multiple counties, you can drop down and select the county that you need to enter data for or certify for. So I'll draw your attention to the county information on the dashboard. This is information we've gathered on the public defense offices in your county. And this will help guide some steps in the IDER. Further down, we have the 3 modules that Edwin referred to for the IDER. We've got the adult criminal and juvenile delinquency, which we will cover today, the family protection, which we will cover tomorrow, and the OCA interpretation report, which we will cover today. Additionally, you'll see a submission status. This page is dynamic. So under each header, the words will change based on where you are in the process of submitting this form. Additionally, so will the IDER submission status. And in order to be completely finished with your IDER submission, You need to have all 3 forms submitted, and green. You'll see this dynamic color change as we demo this in just a minute at the submission status page. Edwin, is there anything you would like to add?
So I'll just highlight that you will be asked to submit each of these 3 components or modules independently. But as Sarah said, after all 3 of them have been submitted, you will be completed. So if you are able to complete one of the sections straight away, it's going to take a little more time for the other one. We encourage you to go ahead and submit the sections that you're ready to submit as soon as possible, and finish the others before the deadline.
So 2 more things I'll say about this page before I click into the checklist is that multiple authorized users are allowed to enter into this dashboard. And so that's one of the reasons we have the progress submission. The second is you can start anywhere in this. So you could start at the OCA interpretation report if you would like. But for now, we're going to start at the adult and criminal and juvenile.
Before you go further, Sarah, I'm looking in the chat and I see that there might be some questions coming up, but we're asking if you could please put the question in the Q&A section and not in the chat. So if you're out there trying to ask a question, could you please put it in the Q&A section? Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Okay, I'm going to enter in. So we're moving from the dashboard to the checklist, and we chose Bexar County because you'll see it's got several of the forms, all of the forms that one would need to fill out for their county. It may have more forms than you will need for your county. Again, you see this dynamic process up top. It tells you how many incomplete steps you have. For these 3 steps on the checklist, you may also start anywhere, but I'm going to start from left to right. Anything to add, Edwin, before I click in?
No.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go into confirm current user. Edwin, I'll let you talk about this step, and then I'll address the details at the bottom.
Sure. So of course, it's been very common practice over the years to share passwords, and we're really moving away from that. And so we're going to ask each independent user of the website to get their own login. As I mentioned earlier, you can have a number of different county employees contributing to the report, populating data, and at the end, the financial officer, generally the auditor, or in some cases the treasurer, will need to log in for the final submission of each component. So that is something different this time, and each user will need to get their own password. But you shouldn't be worried about getting your own credentials. It just allows us to keep up with everything more effectively, and I think it'll be better for everyone.
Great, thank you. So for this step, I'm going to go ahead and confirm that I am this current user. If I were to say no, you will see how to fill this information out on the screen, and it will be sent for validation. Anything else you want to say on that, Edwin?
I think the validation process should be fairly quick. We do want to make sure that not just anyone can get into the report and populate it. So there is a step to make sure that you're authorized to be entered, but that should be a pretty quick process.
Okay, so I'm going to say yes, and draw attention to the buttons at the bottom of the screen. These buttons appear at the bottom of every screen in the checklist, no matter which module you are in. So there's some consistency there. And it is back to checklist. And if I click this, it takes me back to the adult criminal and juvenile checklist without saving any progress. So if you're just wanting to peek into what's to come, you can peek in and then click back to checklist. This is maybe not the best form to make this example, but if you're not quite finished with where you are on a step, you can click save progress and come back to it later. And it will save your progress. If you want to go ahead, if everything you've entered is correct and you know you're done with this step, you can go ahead and click complete step, and it will change the status on the checklist to show as complete.
And
Go ahead.
Very quickly, Sarah, I just want to highlight that even if after you complete a step, you can still go back and make edits to that step if you decide that you forgot something or you need to update something. The report will allow you to do so until the final submission step.
Thank you. And then the last button to just have note of is the add note to TIDC button, that if there is a note that you would like to make for TIDC, you can simply click this button. Edwin, I'll let you finish that explanation.
Yeah, so we think that there's several different kinds of feedback that you might provide on a particular page where you're submitting data. One type of feedback might just be some feedback on the website itself and the form that you're on. And we welcome that feedback because as you know, this is a new system and we want to be engaged in a process of continuous improvement. So if you have feedback on the website, you can click to add a note. As well, if you're reporting data and there is something that you think TIDC needs to know, contextual information regarding the data that you're submitting, you can also click to add a note to us regarding the data that is submitted on each page. So you have that note option on pretty much every page throughout the report. That's what those are the kinds of things that it's for.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and complete this step, which means it automatically returns me back to the checklist. Again, Edwin said I could go back if I realized I needed to update that step, but I'm going to move on to the confirm contact step. Edwin?
Yes, so we again want to make sure that we have the proper contact information and person listed as the financial officer of the county. Again, that's going to always be the county auditor if your county has an auditor. Some counties do not have an auditor, and generally the county treasurer will be the designated financial officer. So you want to confirm that information, or if it's not up to date, if you click no, then you can provide us with the corrected information. And then we also want to know who, if we have questions, we do desk reviews and review all the data. If we need to follow up with someone with questions about the report, we want to know if that is you, the person that's completing this step, or if we should follow up with someone else. So you can either say yes if it's the follow-up contact would be yourself, or no, and direct us to who we should reach out to with questions.
For simplicity, I'm going to say yes to both and go ahead and complete the step. So now we come to the third step on the checklist, and I'll draw your attention, and Edwin will reinforce this, that this step has some questions that are dynamic and will change what appears in the court report. So go ahead, Edwin.
Sure. So when we talk about attorney selection, we're really talking about the system for providing indigent defense attorneys. Typically, these would be either a regular assigned counsel system where private attorneys are appointed on a case-by-case basis, generally off of a wheel or rotation list. We have a public defender option. We have a managed assigned counsel system and also contract attorneys. Now, as Sarah mentioned earlier on, we should have updated information about whether your county has a public defender office or a managed assigned counsel program. And you can see at the top, for example, our sample county says yes to both of those. And so you're just asked whether the county in this page, you're asked whether you have contract attorneys, yes or no, and whether you use regular assigned counsel, which is going to be yes for almost every county, if not every county. So by contract attorneys here, we're talking about particular contracts executed with attorneys to handle a certain number of cases of a certain type in a fixed time frame. Again, thank you for demonstrating our tooltips or little green question marks. If you're not sure of how to complete any of these fields, that's the best bet, is to just hover over the green question mark, get some contextual guidance on what is meant by the question that's presented. Lastly, we ask two other questions. We're asking about whether your county participates in the Regional Public Defender Office for capital cases. This is a statewide program, opt-in program. 270 or 280 counties participate in that program. So many of you will be clicking yes to participating in the Regional Public Defender Office for capital cases. If you're unsure, you can always reach out to us, but I think most counties are aware of their status there. And then finally, just as we've always asked in the IDER, we ask for your accounting method, whether it's cash accrual, modified accrual, or some some other approach.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and say yes to contract, and even though it is not applicable for Bexar County, I'm gonna go ahead and say yes, that they participate in the Regional Public Defender's Office for capital cases to demonstrate what that looks like. And we're gonna say accrual. How about that? And I'm gonna complete this step. And then now you'll notice this dynamic change where you finish the 3 preliminary steps and the rest of the steps now appear. And so I'm going to navigate to the court reports. Edwin?
So the court report is really the heart of the IDER. Most of the expenditures are associated with particular courts. When you get to the court report page, you should see a listing of all the courts that are where indigent defense appointments might be happening in your counties. If for some reason you see a court that is missing that you think should be there, you can reach out to us and we'll address that for you, but you should see all of the courts available. When you click on each of the courts in the court report section, you'll be taken to a series of questions regarding the types of indigent appointments that occurred in that court. But before we get there, I just want to highlight the option to import the attorney detail report. You'll see at the top of this page where all the courts are listed, you have the option of doing a batch upload of the attorney level detail for each of the court reports. This is again where the appointments that are made in a court are itemized down to the level of each individual attorney by their bar number that detail the number of cases of each type that they disposed during the reporting year. Generally speaking, the larger counties use this functionality. It really hasn't changed. If you've already been uploading the batch data for the attorney level detail, this is the link where you would be prompted to upload the same template to get that data uploaded. But for most counties, particularly the non-big urban counties, you're probably going to be adding the attorney detail line by line, and we'll show you how to do that as we get into the court report.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and navigate down to a court. We're going to enter data for the 144th District Court.
So you see you're prompted with a series of questions. For those of you who are familiar with our old report, what you would be prompted with would be a grid of a number of different fields, many of which probably don't apply to your particular situation. So one of the big changes with the report this year is that we are asking you to address each of these questions, and based on your responses, you'll be prompted to complete the specific fields that are applicable to your county's situation. So the series of questions is basically asking for this particular court, the 144th District Court, did this jurisdiction have any juvenile delinquency cases? Did they have any juvenile appeals, capital murder cases, adult non-capital felony for each case type? And for any of those case types that you answer yes to, you'll be prompted to populate the data.
And so just for example, we'll populate, yes, they had adult non-capital felony, the tune of 500,000. Is that right? Yep. Attorney fees.
500,000.
I'm sorry, you're right. That's the attorney fees.
So you'll see that the first field there is asking for the number of cases or the case count of adult non-capital felonies, and you have a box for each counsel type.
We're just entering some estimates. They might be high, but just as a demo. And this is a good time to also draw attention to a new aspect of the website is when you have said yes to something, it's going to require you to zero out anything that is not truly an expense or a case.
So if at the beginning of the report in that earlier page, when you were asked whether your county uses any contract counsel, if you had said no at that juncture, you would not see the row really anywhere in the report that's associated with contract counsel. That's why we ask it at the outset. So for many of you, you will not necessarily see all these lines. And of course, for the managed assigned counsel and public defender rows here, you're only going to see those if you are in our system. And again, we're monitoring and believe we have accurate lists of the counties that those types of programs apply to. So you'll only be seeing those rows if they apply to you. If you don't see them and you think they should apply, of course, reach out to us. So it's really the same data. I just want to highlight it's the same data that we've been capturing in previous years. It's just that we're kind of walking you through it, filtering out the fields that are not applicable to your county situation, but we're really collecting the same data in the court report here that we always have.
So now I'm going to go into the attorney detail. And in order to add an attorney in the details for simplicity, we're going to add just one attorney, which isn't realistic, but we have a test attorney. And so our system is designed to detect their name based on the bar number.
So we always want to make sure when we're looking at these fields to pay attention to which of the fields are asking for case counts and which field is asking for dollar figures. So the very first field that Sarah populated there is asking for the total attorney fees paid to this lawyer in this court. Remember that all of this data that we're dealing with now is court by court, not an aggregate or countywide data.
And then once you're done entering that attorney's details, you save and you can confirm down here and either edit it or delete it and start over again. Does that look right, Edwin?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, I'm going to go
So
back.
we have the number of cases. Again, you're reporting the number of cases this attorney handled in this court, organized by case type, juvenile, capital murder, felony, misdemeanor, etc. In this instance, this person handled 50 felonies in this court and was paid a total of $500,000. It's a little steep, but we'll let that ride. Good for her.
That's right.
So as you click into each court, you'll be presented with the same series of questions asking whether a particular case type was handled in that court. And if you say yes, then you'll be prompted for that same data.
And okay, so do you want to talk about the needs review since we already have it happening now?
Sure. So you'll see that the court that we were working in has turned red, says needs review, and it's because the system is doing a bit of math and trying to figure out why the attorney detail data is not aligning as expected with the court report. So we have a couple of notes that appear down here in red. Please revise the reported attorney fees. Reported attorney fees in the court report should match the reported attorney fees in the attorney detail report. So I think this is one of those kinds of errors, Sarah, that where you really can't proceed it or you can't submit finally until you address that failure to reconcile. Because again, we call it the attorney detail because we're really just itemizing the total attorney fees reported in the court. And those the detail should total up to that same figure.
And I think we're catching very handily before it gets launched an error. And so we're going to go ahead and move forward if that's okay with you, Evan.
Yes. So that turned green. You must have
Yes.
done something right. Good job.
I did something right. But hopefully, I will say for each court in which you want to enter data, if you do not have data to enter for a court, you may simply skip it. It can stay in the not started black, button phase. And then all you have to simply do is when you've entered all the relevant ones, complete the step. Are you okay if I do that now, Edwin?
Yeah.
Okay, now you'll see that turn to green. For demonstration, I'll move next to reimbursements. Edwin?
So this section of the report is gathering, we're no longer, we've completed the court by court reports, or we're imagining we have, and we're going back to some general countywide figures. Not all of these will apply to your counties. In fact, many of these will not apply. These are the same kinds of data that we've been capturing before, just looks a little bit different in this format. But we're asking if your county received any reimbursements of indigent defense expenditures from the comptroller for what are referred to as 11071 writs of habeas corpus. Those are death penalty post-conviction appeals, and some counties for whom that is applicable will have some expenditures that were reimbursed directly from the comptroller. If that unusual circumstance applies to you and you say yes, you would populate the dollar figure that you received in this report year in that field there. Next, just as we always have, we're asking for whether the county had collected any reimbursements of indigent defense fees from defendants. This would be if a court orders a defendant to repay indigent defense attorney fees. Of course, that should only be happening when there has been a determination by the court of an ability to pay. A number of counties may not have anything to report here, but if you do, you are to report the total amount of reimbursements of indigent defense costs collected from defendants. I want to distinguish that from the total amount collected from defendants, which would include other types of court fees. Perhaps we're really only focused here on ordered reimbursements of indigent defense attorney costs that have been ordered by the court for defendants to pay that you've collected. If that doesn't apply to you, of course, you just click no. And then finally, there's a place for you to tell us what if you've received some other indigent defense funding, perhaps a federal grant from the federal government, perhaps a private foundation, or some other source that has offset your indigent defense expenditures. Please report that in this section here. If you did receive some additional funds, we're asking you to report the amount and also just tell us briefly the source of the funding. So that's pretty similar to what we've had before.
Now we'll move to regional indigent defense programs.
Right. So, of course, a number of counties, I mentioned at the outset that a number of counties participate in the Regional Public Defender Office for capital cases. This is a death penalty public defender office that is an opt-in program where participating counties pay an annual participation fee to be covered. And in the event that they have a death penalty case in their jurisdiction, the program will provide defense representation, including attorneys and investigators and mitigation specialists, and no additional cost. So these first fields would be where you report the payments of the annual participation fee to the RPDO for capital cases, if your county participates. Most counties will only have one payment per year, but sometimes if a payment is made around the turning of the fiscal year, you might have two that are actually in this report year for the IDER, in which case you can list each payment made. One of the things that's different this year is that some counties participate in the Regional Public Defender Office for capital cases and also participate in a non-capital Regional Public Defender program. If you are one of those counties, in previous years, you've added up your payments for the capital program and the non-capital program and just reported one number to us, payments to regional programs. This year, we're asking you to break it up so that if you have a non-capital or if you participate in a non-capital regional program, you would list those payments separately. That scenario doesn't apply to this particular, I forgot we did add it for demonstration purposes. And so you'll see below, the top part would be where you report your payments for the capital program, and the bottom part, if this applies to you, is where you would report your payments for the non-capital regional program.
And because our system detected these as necessary, you are required to fill out something for them.
Yes. And another difference is that we are asking you to report, or rather itemize your payments to those regional programs as opposed to just reporting an aggregate figure to us.
Okay, now we're going to move on to limited scope.
Right, so this section was added a few years ago to the IDER, and it was because these types of expenses and this type of representation was not really captured by our previous report structure. What we're talking about with limited scope representation is when attorneys are appointed to represent defendants either at the Article 1517 magistration hearing, which is the first appearance before a judge after arrest, or during what are sometimes referred to as automatic bail review hearings. If an attorney is appointed specifically and limited for the limited purpose of representing the defendant in that hearing and proceeding without any additional obligations to represent the defendant in the underlying case. So the advocacy would be focused specifically on bail and the setting of bail and whether the defendant is eligible for release pretrial. Most counties will not have anything to report for this section, but a growing number of counties will. And if your county is one that does provide this type of representation, this is where it's reported. So again, you're asked if it applies to you at all. If it does, you'll see these fields. The representation may be handled by assigned counsel or other counsel types like the managed assigned counsel program, the public defender, contract attorneys, etc. And if so, you're asked to report the total attorney fees paid for, and again, this is at a countywide level because these cases are not assigned to a particular court. So this would be countywide data, total attorney fees paid, and the number of defendants represented, but with this type of representation. And it's divided up between representation provided at the Article 1517 magistration proceeding, and also below if your county provides this type of representation as part of automatic bail review hearings. You're also asked if that's applicable to you. If so, you'll see the same fields for that category of limited scope representation. If you have any questions about whether this applies to you or how to complete this section, of course, you can follow up with us, and there's additional information that will be in the updated reporting manual that'll be coming out very soon.
And I'll just let folks peek. That looks the same. We're going to say no to both and complete the step. And now you want to move to the MAC addendum?
Sure. So the next several sections are only going to apply to some counties that have either a managed assigned counsel program or a public defender program. If these apply to you, then the same type of data that we've been collecting in the past regarding these programs will be provided. We are asking, particularly for managed assigned counsel programs, for a little more granular data than we have requested previously, but it's pretty straightforward in terms of salaries, fringe benefits expended for the employees of the program. So the managed assigned counsel program addendum that we're looking at here, again, only if it applies to you, you will be allocating the total salary and fringe benefit costs, or rather reporting the total salary and fringe benefit costs for these different categories of staffers that might work in your managed assigned counsel program. Attorneys, investigators, mitigators, mitigation specialists, mental health professionals, which in this context, we're talking about social workers or mental health caseworkers, and then basically everyone else, administrative support, paralegals, etc. So you'll report salary and fringe benefits expenditures for employees of the managed assigned counsel program in the top section, and then other kinds of operational expenses of the managed assigned counsel office, including travel and training of the MAC staff, any equipment purchased for the MAC, and other direct operating expenditures, which would include office supplies and miscellaneous types of expenses incurred by a managed assigned counsel program. So again, this will only apply to a relatively short list of counties initially, but this type of program is growing and may be something that you'll see down the road. For those counties that have a public defender office, there are a couple of distinctions I should note first. The public defender addendum of the Indigent Defense Expenditure Report, which we're going to be looking at here, would only apply if your county directly operates a public defender office as generally a single county operation, or if your county is a host county of a regional public defender office. So if you're a county that participates in a regional program, but you're not the host of it, you would not see or be responsible for completing this part, the public defender addendum. You would be responsible for reporting the number of cases in your jurisdiction or your county that the public defender handled for you each year. But this would only be for the host county of regional programs or for other public defender counties that are single county operations. And again, this is going to be essentially the same data that we have been collecting regarding public defender office expenditures, but it's structured again with this question and answer section to kind of filter out some of the fields that are not applicable to some of the programs out there. So you're asked basically what types of case categories the program addresses, because the first part of this program, of this form, you are asked to allocate the salary and fringe benefits costs of the public defender program across different categories of representation, felony, misdemeanor, juvenile, etc. If a category of representation is something that is applicable to your public defender office, you would click yes to those applicable sections and allocate the expenditures accordingly. And we do have some guidance on how to do that is part of the manual, the reporting manual, but it is essentially the same process that you would have used heretofore previous years. So after you allocate the personnel costs across these different categories that are applicable to your PD office, you are asked to populate the other administrative expenditures of the public defender program, travel and training, equipment, etc. And again, using the sort of Q&A format to filter out which fields are applicable to your situation. And at the bottom, just as you have in the past, if you have indirect expenditures that you're claiming on the public defender office, you can indicate the rate, the approving agency of that indirect rate, and the amount. And so essentially there's no difference in the content of the public defender addendum that you see here. It's just the way that you're being prompted to populate the fields. But it's essentially the same data that you've been providing as a public defender county in a slightly different format. One thing that is new in the last red box that Sarah is about to click on for us is public defender staffing details, including salary details. So some of you may be familiar with the fact that TIDC has been collaborating with our partners to gather information about salaries of public defense providers around the state to make sure that we have current data on what those competitive rates are and can provide us with guidance as we plan and work with jurisdictions all across the state who are interested in developing these types of programs. So you'll see here, because the Bexar County actually has a public defender and a managed assigned counsel program, there is a separate staffing detail report for each of those programs. I don't know if we need to do both, Sarah, or we can just click into one of them. Maybe we'll just take a peek at the other. So in the first part of this new, I should also say that this section of the report is currently optional unless your county's public defender or MAC program is currently receiving a TIDC improvement grant and is currently supported by a TIDC improvement grant. If so, it is a grant condition that you provide the staffing detail to us, and so it would be required for you. If not, but you do have a public defender or MAC, we would greatly appreciate your help in providing this data, but it would still be an optional section for you. So the way to begin is first to add the types of positions that your program has. Sarah can
and our programmer was working on this today, so those buttons are missing, but they will be.
So there are 2 steps to completing the staffing detail. And again, this is only going to apply to counties that have these types of programs. Many counties will not need to complete these sections. But the first step would be to add position types. For example, chief public defender, felony attorney, administrative support personnel, paralegal, social worker, etc. So you add the types of positions first, and you'll be prompted to do that with drop-down menus. And then you will add a line for each particular person that works in the program with some information about how long they've worked at the program, when they started, salary level, etc. And still in progress as we do some of the finishing touches on the new site. But for those of you for whom this is applicable, you will see step 1, add the position types, and step 2, add the individuals.
Okay, so now that folks have completed their checklist and they've entered, again, they can click into any step and review the data if they want to make sure. But once they feel it is all finalized and ready to go, the auditor will be allowed to click into the review, submission, and certify. And only the auditor in the counties will be able to click this button. Others will be able to come in and preview everything that you entered. So it will be a screen view of all the data you've entered. Additionally, you'll be allowed to download it, or need to go back and fix something you've noticed, you can go back to the checklist.
So again, even if there's a green checkbox next to a section, it doesn't mean that you can't go back and review it, edit it, make changes to it. You can always go back, even if you've clicked complete step, until you do that, the auditor does that final submission step.
Yes, so the certified IDR will complete this and cannot go back. So are you ready for me to do that, Edwin?
I think so.
I'm acting auditor. And now you see we're back to the main county dashboard, where the only option now for the adult criminal and juvenile is to download. And this will download the entire screen view you just saw up in your download manager.
Great. And so we're going to have this, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have a separate training tomorrow at 1 p.m. that's going to focus on the family protection or CPS section of the IDER, which you see the option to start for there. So that will be also recorded, and we'll be doing a couple of those in the coming weeks. But today we're also going to introduce to you the new Office of Court Administration Court Interpretation Services Report, I believe is the proper name for it. And we are joined here by several of our colleagues from the Office of Court Administration. I see Angela Garcia. I believe maybe Lisa Robles might be on with us. And I don't see anyone else online, but why don't we go ahead and click into the Court Interpretation Services Report and take a look at it. And I can turn it over to our friends from the Office of Court Administration to say a little bit about this report, and which will be new for all of us this year.
Thank you, Edwin. It's Angela Garcia, Chief Data Officer with the Office of Court Administration. We have asked TIDC to help us in collecting the interpreter data for the court services interpretation mandate that was established by Senate Bill 380 and House Bill 3474. That really is a quick report. It is capturing the number of interpreters appointed or used during a fiscal year, and that fiscal year starts with October 1st. And how many of those interpreters were used for indigent parties or defendants, and the total expenditures the county has made over the fiscal year. And if you have any questions about the details about what to count or not, there's a link to our reporting instructions. There are frequently asked questions, and there are our email address if you have any further questions to ask us.
Thanks, Angela. So you can see that Sarah has opened up the page, and you will see a familiar structure of a few questions, yes, no questions. And when you click yes to some of these questions, you will be prompted to fill in the relevant fields.
And for simplicity, I'm going to say no to everything, although it's not true for counties. But folks can just see when you say yes, the related data to report.
So, and again, we do have the green question marks to provide you with a little bit of contextual data on how to complete this section. But as Angela mentioned, the complete instructions are on OCA's website. And I think if we don't, yeah, we do have the link right there at the bottom that will
Yes.
take you to more substantive guidance on how to complete the fields of this report.
And then this email will direct straight to the folks at OCA for questions. Anything else, team, on this?
I don't think so. So yes, this will be new to everybody. We're happy to collaborate with OCA to for you financial officers in the counties to not have to go to some separate place to deposit this data, but to sort of piggyback on what you're already doing with TIDC's IDER reports. And it is basically built in as a module. So we have the criminal and juvenile delinquency model that we've been spending a lot of time on today. We have the family protection or CPS module that is going to be the subject of tomorrow's training at 1 o'clock, and then the OCA interpreters report, which is a quick one-page report that you saw as the 3 modules of the IDER moving forward. Again, each of them can be submitted independently, but you're really not finished with the IDER submission until your bottom right checklist shows green for each of the 3 components. And all the reports are due on the same day, November 1st. I will say that, you know, it's frequent for us to be asked about whether we can give an extension to complete the report. Unfortunately, because the reporting deadline is written into the statute, we don't really have the flexibility to formally do so. We understand when some issues come up, and so we just urge you to reach out to us if you're having some challenge regarding getting the reporting filed, and we will work you through it. But I think at this juncture, we're ready to dive into some of those questions that I know you all have been typing into the questions section. Hold on.
I wrote down a question, and then we did get one question in the Q&A session. They both relate to the same thing. So, Dr. Gamble, if you could share your screen again and go to your court reports, I'll share the question.
Yes, to do that, since we've already completed and certified, I'm going to have to go to my second county.
Okay.
And have to click through a little bit. So go ahead and answer that question.
Okay. Chris Wells, I believe from Harris County, asked, is there any bulk upload for larger counties for the attorney detail report? And I know we showed the button, but we didn't go into the behind the scenes how he would do it. So I thought maybe we could do that. And then my question that came up that I don't know that we have the answer yet is also related to the attorney detail, but it's on a county that enters manually the attorney detail. We always had the option after the first year to the previous year's attorneys' names and bar card numbers so that all that data doesn't have to be researched and redone. And I'm just wondering if there's going to be availability for the smaller counties that don't upload a big file to be able to see all those attorneys without having to go through and add all their names and lines again. But anyway, that was my question that I was curious about. And then Chris Wells.
Yes, so for the large counties that want to import, we've got a link to the template, which will download it, and to that will download the template and a link to the instructions. Once you have that template ready, you simply upload the file, and it will associate with the appropriate courts in this system, and you will continue to enter in the court reports, and it will balance and look for those differences. So the process is the same, and the format of the Excel template is the same, just on a new place.
Okay, so do we have, are you able to open up the program again and show?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was sharing my screen.
No, I don't see it.
Well, of course not, because I'm not sharing, but now I am.
Okay,
There we go. So, so yes, the template link is here and the instructions are here. And then you
can you
click
go
it.
out? I was gonna say, go out one step and then show where they, like one more step before you get to court reports. Like, so you highlight court reports. So you go to your court reports and then that button's on the top.
Mhm.
And then you go ahead and show them. Okay. And then here's where you choose the file.
Yes, and this will go off screen to click through the rest of it. But yes, you just find the right file on your computer and upload it.
Okay. We do have a second question that just popped up. Are we able to log into the new website before October 1 to view and look around? Now, did you say it's open on October 1st?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I heard the right month. I almost thought you said November 1st. And
We do have some last minute programming details we're working through. It's been a big project, so and we'll have to be, I think, October 1st before we can get everybody in there. But that will give you a month before the deadline. Hopefully, that'll be an opportunity for you to get a feel for it. In the meantime, we are going to be recording today's session. We're going to have another several other training sessions that are going to be demoing the system that you can review to, again, get more acquainted with the way that the report will be organized and how to use it.
okay. Another question popped up, but can we go in and get new login credentials? I would think we have to wait till October 1st, correct? Okay. Quick question on login credentials. So the legacy program, the one that everybody's signed into, let's say I have a login for that. Do I need a completely separate login for this new website? Can it be the same login or should it be a different login?
Yes, so if you exist in the current legacy system, your email and all the information associated with your email will come over to the new system. All you have to do is set up a new password in this system. So if you want to make it the same password, don't make it password. No, you may use the same password. I would recommend for, security using different passwords. But until we bridge all of the information from the legacy system to the new system, you will need to maintain the same email and possibly 2 different passwords to log in.
Okay. So we still need to use both programs and need to have 2 logins. Okay.
And so some counties will, in fact, many auditors will still need to continue to visit our original or old website. If you have a grant from us, actually all the formula grant applications, any improvement grants that your county receives, you'll still for now be using our legacy, our old website with the same credentials that you've used in the past. But we are aiming to move everything over to our new site, and this is one of the first big sections of our IT infrastructure to do so, to migrate over to the new technology.
And Edwin, I think we have a hand up and another question in the chat. Do you want to go to?
Harry is asking, are capital murder appeals costs still included in the regular felony appeals total, or will they be separated in the new IDER? So capital murder appeals, direct appeals would be under the felony appeals category. There is no separate category for capital appeals. So that part that categorization area will remain the same. In other words, we separate out the capital cases at the trial level, but not at the appellate level.
So I see 2 hands. Should we go to Beverly Ham?
Yeah, if we can. Beverly, do you want to unmute and share your question?
It was an accident. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay, no problem. Any other, let's see.
I think Sherry Johnson has her hand up.
Ms. Johnson, would you like to unmute and ask your question? Got a few more. Let's see. So yeah, I see a hand up for Sherry Johnson. You can either unmute and share your question now, or if you want to type it into the question box, we can do it that way. Let's see, we have another question. Are forms available to print before filling out online to help assistance with gathering the needed information? So we are working to finalize the updated Indigent Defense Expenditure Report manual, which includes a number of screenshots to show the various fields and pages that are in the report. So I think that those screenshots would be helpful to you to see what data is needed. You can also go to your to see all the fields in the report unfiltered, if you will. You can always go to the existing or the most recently filed IDER in our legacy system, and you can do a print to PDF of that report to basically see everything that is included and reported. So I would say that probably for that purpose, at this juncture, the best thing to do would, when somebody's working offline to prepare and gather data, you may just want to look at the PDF of your previously submitted report from the old system just to see all the fields. Again, one of the big innovations here is that we're filtering out fields based on how you answer questions. So the report is more dynamic in the sense that it's responding to how you click yes or no and various to various prompts. So I think for a comprehensive look, you might just want to take a look at your previously submitted report.
Okay, so I think we missed a couple questions
Yeah.
in the Q&A.
So one question is, can you remind us what the new link to the new report website will be? So we're going to have two ways that you can navigate to the new report. One of them will be to go to our legacy system, and if you click on the IDER over there, you will be routed directly to the new report. And we will be posting a link on our main informational website, which is tidc.texas.gov. And of course, the address will be in the IDER manual, which is being finalized and will be issued very soon. That will have detailed instructions on the website to visit, the website address to visit to get to the new site. But for now, the quickest advice I can give you is that you can go to our legacy website to click the IDER once it's open, and it will route you directly there, or you can follow the link that will be published in the manual, which will be issued very shortly.
Okay, so there was two that were skipped, one from Harry Shoppy and one from Chris Wells. So Harry said, I missed the part about whether the attorney's reporting from last year will be imported to the new IDER website. Could you please respond again? And I think this is the one where you're manually entering each line where we used to auto-populate. And I didn't hear the answer either. I'm not sure if that was a feature.
I'll just say that's under development. We're trying to see if we can accomplish that.
Okay.
At the very least, that list is available on the legacy site, so you can access and look at the last year's data.
Okay. And then Chris Wells is asking if there will be a bulk upload for the court report portion of the report, not just the detailed attorney portion.
I see. I hope we didn't misunderstand your original question, Chris.
Awesome.
Yeah. So at this point, we don't have a bulk upload of court report data. Obviously, for some of the larger counties like yours, I can see why that would be something that would be helpful. So certainly something that we can look into and as a next phase of development. And I guess I'd have to leave it there, Sarah, unless you have anything to ask.
That sounds right.
So for now, no, but it's a great idea, especially for
we're looking into it.
Yours, and we will we want to be working toward continuous improvement and development of the site to make your reporting as streamlined as possible.
Good.
So got a question about attorney practice time reports and whether they would be reported on this site or the legacy site. Sarah, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, there is a training at 4 o'clock today about attorney practice time report. Those can be found, I guess I could share screens again.
The attorney, for those who may not be familiar, the attorney practice time report is separate from the IDER. It's another report that comes to TIDC where we gather information on the percentage of time that attorneys devote to indigent defense work on both family protection side and the criminal side. We have migrated that to our new reporting system. So Sarah, you want to talk about?
Yes, so on our main data portal, you can access this report. And it will be live also October 1st, but I don't remember the question, but it looks the same as last year, it just has a new home.
Yeah, so a lot of counties will have the attorneys be responsible themselves to go in and file their attorney practice time report. However, some counties, I believe the auditor collects the data from the attorneys on the list and uploads it. So we do have a new place, a new modernized website for the attorney practice time report. And it is part of the new system, not the legacy system. But the link is, you'll find the link in the same place to take you to the new report. All right. So we will definitely be looking at the possibility of importing the attorney bar card numbers from the legacy system. It's been a big lift. We're doing a lot of last minute programming work to get the thing ready, but if at all possible, we recognize it would be helpful, and we'll do our best. Any other questions out there? We still have our friends from the Office of Court Administration if folks have questions about the Court Interpretation Services report. We're getting off easy so far. This training that we have been doing today focused on the criminal and juvenile delinquency section of the IDER. We're going to do another version of it, another live overview and walkthrough demo, just like today. We're going to do that again on the 25th of September at 10 o'clock. If you go to TIDC's main website, tidc.texas.gov, in the what's new or upcoming trainings box there, you'll see a list of all of our upcoming trainings. So we're going to do this one again on the 25th that will focus on the criminal and juvenile delinquency and also touch on the new court interpretation services report. Later today, we're going to have a training session on the attorney practice time report. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we have a training scheduled on the family protection section of the IDER that will also touch on the new OCA court interpretation services report. So a number of training opportunities. And again, we did record today's session. I think we're generally going to be recording these and posting them probably in most cases the next day on our website for your review. And so, yeah, we can have a few opportunities coming up.
And it looks like we had a question on the interpreters. Are we only reporting criminal and civil cases, not family and CPS? Civil, the definition of civil includes family, tax, probate, guardianship, and civil mental health commitments. So pretty much everything except for criminal and juvenile is under civil.
So including CPS.
Yes.
So yes, CPS cases are considered civil. cases, and so any court interpretation expenses or appointments would be included in the civil. Any other questions? You can put a hand up or you can type it in the Q&A box.
Angela, I added a question from a clerk on our side. Is the interpretation services report optional for counties if they are less than 50K in population? Do they still have to report?
Everybody has to report.
Everyone has to
Or
report.
just report zeros if you don't have any that's relevant. But again, go back to the instructions and the FAQs to make sure that you really don't have anything to report given those rules.
It is a legislative mandate, and
Yes.
so we do our best to follow the guidance from the legislature.
Yep.
All right, we got a question from maybe a question from Jana Teague in Burnett County. Jana, did you want to type your question or? Do we report non-paid interpreters? So I know that there are different data fields that are collected. Some of the data fields are how much is being spent by the county for interpretation services, but also, Angela.
So again, if you go back to the, really the most helpful for you is going to be the FAQs where we have a lot of these questions answered. There's all sorts of different flavors in every county. So if you don't find your specific situation in the FAQs, please follow up with us and we'll add it. You know, like I said, there's 100 different flavors. So everybody's asking a little bit different question. So please look at our FAQs and just in a general answer, even though they may not be paid, if they're on salary, we do want them included, even though they're not appointed officially by a judge. So there are various rules that we've had to come up with every situation.
And I just, I'm trying to share my screen just to show where you have all this information on the OCA website. Is that working? Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
And this is the OCA website?
Yes.
Okay, good. So under judicial data, the tab on the Office of Court Administration or the Texas Judicial System website, under, where is it here?
Yeah, third one down, court interpretation.
There we go. Thank you very much. Court interpretation services. So we've got the instructions for that section, the FAQ document that we were just referring to, and a sample template of the fields that are involved. So the instructions, it's pretty brief, but definitely good information there. And then the FAQ document that was just referred to will have some good guidance. Since this is new for all of us, that would be a good place to start.
And for interpreters, are these only for indigent? No, it's both. So all interpretation services that were court ordered or used by the county, and as a subset of those that were only used for indigent people is the answer.
All right, I should mention that we were joined by Alejandra Pena from OCA, whom I didn't mention earlier. Hello, Alejandra, thank you for joining us. Works with, as the Director of Research and Data, I forget the exact title, forgive me. And of course, OCA is charged with collecting a lot of data. This is one new piece, and they have their hands full, but they've been great to work with. So we're glad we could build this in as a way to streamline you getting the data that you need to report to us.
There is one more question from Chris Wells regarding interpreters. I don't know if y'all can take that. regarding appointed or used. If an interpreter is used multiple times in the reporting period, do we, I'm not sure, do we could all or just the first use for a defender? So I'm not sure exactly. Do we count all or just the first use for a defendant? I don't know how to answer that. I don't know.
So in other words, are they to report the number of people that were used, or the number of times or occasions that they were used? I think maybe that's getting at Chris's question. Forgive me, Chris, if I'm botching it.
And you would report by the individual, not by the count of how many times they have interpreted. And that's also because if there's an interpreter on staff, we're just going to count that person one time, regardless of how many times they are interpreting.
So it's really asking for how many interpreters, how many people were involved in interpretation. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, that makes a
Yes.
difference. Good
As
question.
opposed to appointments, instances, occasions of interpreting.
Cases disposed, appointments made. Yeah, could be.
And though we are counting by the individual, if that same individual interpreted in criminal and in civil, they will count in each one, but that's the only time where you'll duplicate.
And Chris Wells, you had your hand up. I don't know if you had other questions, but feel free to unmute.
Okay, I think I figured out how to unmute. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about the typos there. Yeah, so the use of the word appointed or used in the documentation we had some discussion here on if you have an interpreter and they have been interpreting for, say, in the 1 year period, they have interpreted for, say, 10 different defendants, is the count 10? Or is the count 1, and there's a follow-on question to that is if for those 10 defendants, each had 5 settings and the interpreter was present at each of those 5 settings, would it then be 10 or would it be 50?
So it would still be the one time.
Counting the people.
Right.
And the reason for that is that in most counties, the clerks do not have that information at all. So there's no way we would be able to capture that data statewide. So we had to go with the 1 person count.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see any other questions coming in. We still have some time if anyone would like to get a question in. We can certainly loop back in. I think, Sarah, we could potentially loop back into a different county and poke around if someone had a question about one of the modules we reviewed. Again, we will put a recording of this session up. We're going to have another one on the 25th. We have our family protection IDER training tomorrow. We have done a separate one for family protection because there are some significant differences that many of you are familiar with that should be highlighted. Jana and Bernard asks, one company with multiple interpreters, would you count 1 for each interpreter? So I guess there's some practice or company that has multiple people employed, each doing interpretation. I believe you would be counting each individual interpreter that works for that company 1 time in each side, civil and criminal, that they were involved.
Yes, that's correct.
Right. So that's an interesting question. It's hard to imagine all the different questions in advance because this is quite new. But again, we're counting the individual interpreters in this new section. All right. Well, it looks like we may have gotten to the end of the questions. Of course, if you have questions after we sign off here, you are welcome to reach out to us at TIDC or at OCA, as the case may be, depending on your question. And we'll do our best to answer anything that we didn't get to today. Looks like that may be it. Anybody see any other pending questions in the chat or elsewhere? All right. Well, I think we might then just wrap it up. Thank you very much for joining us for this demonstration. I hope it's been helpful to see how the new website is going to be navigated. I know that we're all going to be working through the changes, and so today is not the last time to ask us questions. Reach out with any additional ones that come up. We will be issuing the IDER manual with updated guidance for the new technology very soon. And we also have those trainings that are all listed on the main page of our informational website, tidc.texas.gov. You'll see a list of a link to a list of all of our upcoming trainings, allow you to pre-register. And with that,
Well, I do see one more question.
Does the audit office report to OCA or is it the clerk of the court? It's a good question. I'll let them take it.
So the statute says it's the county auditor in consultation with the clerk of the county as well, because there is some information that has to come from the clerk, and the clerks do not have access to TIDC's reporting portal, so it would be the auditors.
Right.
Would you want to allow a clerk to get credentials to log in that report? If anybody can log in, I mean, I know that we have the auditor, we want the auditor to actually submit the IDER, but on the OCA report.
I believe the OCA report will be part of what needs to be completed for everything to be submitted. Edwin, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong. So I don't think the clerk would be able to answer the other sections.
Okay.
Just as the auditor needs to say consult with other stakeholders to, for example, chief public defender to get some of the data. I think the idea here is that the auditor would consult with the clerk to get the data ready, but the way the statute is written, the auditor is responsible for submitting the report. And since it is very brief, I think that will work pretty well. But and yes, to your point, Alejandra, each of the modules, the criminal module, the CPS or family protection module, and the OCA interpreters report module can be submitted independently. However, the IDER is not complete until each of those three modules is submitted. So it is statutorily, like the IDER, the responsibility of the financial officer of the county. Okay, I think we should probably wrap up here. Again, if you have other questions that pop up, please reach out to TIDC or OCA, and we're happy to answer your questions. We'll be looking forward to delivering some additional trainings and rolling out our new technology. I want to thank everybody who participated on our team, all of our friends at the Office of Court Administration and here at TIDC, Sarah Gamble, Deborah Stewart, Lisa Robles, Angela Garcia, Alejandra Pena. Kristen Meeks has done a ton. We didn't hear from her a lot today, but has been super helpful, as well as my colleague, Kenitra Brown. And so thanks to everybody here and at OCA who's really pulled it together to bring this thing to the launch pad. And we'll be looking forward to launching it on October 1st. So thank you very much. I think we'll sign off for now.